How you doing, everybody? Randy Richard in the shop. Well, this is where we left off, right? Same spot. Cylinders moving. We have our rod connection all done. We have our spring tensioning device, except for the spring, all complete. We have our bushings in. So let's just jump in and let's just draw a spring and try to explain some of that. I've drawn a few, not a lot, but I've drawn a few, enough to we could get something done here. So first off, we're going to do we're going to kind of hide a bunch of stuff because we don't need to see the base. And there's our cylinder parts and assembly. We only need to see the origin here. We'd like to see where that is, and that's okay because we're going to use that because we want to keep it on the z-axis in line with the shaft here, so that's fine. What we don't need to see is pretty much all the other stuff, right? Pretty much. So if I turn off the cylinder, I'm going to lose everything. Well, that's not the I'll turn off the rod base, and I'm going to just turn off the body of the cylinder. We don't need to see that. So I just click the light bulb again, and it will all disappear. But I'll be able to keep that origin point there. So the spring command is right here under create. It's called a coil. And if you read the little picture that comes up here, it says select a plane, then draw a circle to specify the major diameter of the coil. Finish defining the coil using the manipulators or dialog box. And now in Fusion, the coil command is not as sophisticated as it could be in AutoCAD Inventor, in AutoCAD Inventor, Autodesk Inventor. It's much more sophisticated. You can make the flat ends. You can do all sorts of other stuff to it, which is pretty nice. You can change the profile of the spring if instead of just a few selections that you're going to have here. So it's a much more useful command, I should say, in Inventor than it is here. But this is what we're going to do that though, right? We're going to create a coil. So just click on coil, and what it says, select a plane or planar face. So I'm going to select the right here, this axis here, and the center is fine. And now you see how it's drawing a circle. I'm leaving it like this because it's probably a little easier to see what's going on. We're going to draw a circle, and the outside of our circle is 0.3125. And there, boom, it instantly will draw a spring, a default value spring. And it drew it on that, based on that plane I clicked on, right? So it's right, it should be right in the z-axis is in this, you can see here, the z-axis is right in the center of the spring, see? That's why it's kind of weird here to do. So a few things we'll work on here. So we already clicked the plane of the profile, and the first type is revolution and height, which is fine for now. We could work on some of this, go through some of the other choices here, but revolution and height for now is fine. The diameter is 5/16. Revolutions. Well, the default is 3. Well, I see 3 coils. We're probably going to want more than that. We're probably going to want, like, I don't know, 6 or so. But the problem, when I typed in 6, it can't get that in a height of the spring. See, so let's leave it at 3. But the height of the spring is only 0.352. Well, that's less than 3/8 of an inch. So it's a really short spring. We want a spring that's probably like about 0.75. It's probably going to be about 3/4 of an inch or so. And now we can expand our numbers of coils to 6. But now these are really fat coils, aren't they? They don't look kind of fat. Well, the down here, so we'll work our way down here. So circular is the cross-sectional of the spring. It's a round spring. It's made out of wire, let's say, right? But you only have a few choices: circular, square, triangular, internal, external. So we're going to stick with circular. It's going to be a wire spring. Sectional position. Well, that, let's see here. Inside, outside, no, inside, on center, or outside. Default is on center. So if you take a look at it, we rotate it around here, you'll see that the line for the axis is, see how things are right in the center of that. So now let's change it. Let's shift it to inside. So the axis is now, let's see here. See how the blue line, here, let's see if I gotta get this turned so you see this. See the blue line here is the axis. So we'll go back to center. On center, see how this blue line goes to the middle of it? See how the center goes to the inside of the line, and then it would go to the outside of the spring? So I would say that the line is on the spring is on the outside of the line, so that's what that means, and the spring is on the inside of the line. Okay, let's leave the spring on the outside of the line because that's our diameter. Okay, that's the way the outside of the spring is 5/16. Okay, because that circle we drew is 5/16, and that's what we want because we want to fit into those little caps. Now here, this number is the big one down here at the bottom, section size. That's how fat is the wire. Well, we only need like maybe 30 thousandths wire, right? Something a lot thinner. There you go. That looks a lot better. We're also going to make this a component, right? Within where are we? We're on the, we're not, well, we don't want to make a component here where it's at though. That's not where we wanted it. I forgot to change my active component, but we can leave it here for now. That's okay. And we'll make it a component because we get to show how we're going to deal with that. So there's pretty much our spring. If you don't think it has enough coils, add a couple more coils if you want. But it will only compress. It will compress less. See, so let's say 6 coils. Now we can't make it compress or do any of that fancy stuff. So that you might have to come in here and adjust the length and all that. It's probably only going to be like 1/2 inch long, but let's just do that. Let's just say it 1/2 inch to make it look right. And we're going to say okay. There we go. There's our spring. So drawing a spring is really not very hard to do. Anyway, let's turn on the pivot rod. See, so now our spring is way down here. Now we want to do is create a joint. Now one thing for sure, now when you click on a component, you see that? I clicked on that component. Down here, see those little hash marks on the bottom of the history line? Those indicate what one you've selected. Now I'm gonna change it. See that? To the other one, to the other spring cap or the nut, right? It gives you an idea where you're at in your timeline. Well, that position of this, right, is a joint, right? We defined it with a joint where this is at. So if I click on that, that joint is going to be one of these. It's probably this one. And since I have joints turned off here, there we go. We'll turn them back on. There should be a little joint symbol. And its joint's going to be on the end because that's where we said it would be. So if I double click that joint, it's that one, or is it this one? It's probably this one, the first one. This is where naming them really helps. And now I'm going to say edit joint. Yeah, so it's that one. Now I'm going to bring this a little bit this way because we were probably too far. So it's going to be like, we'll just move it a little bit, like 85. That's probably a little too much, but that's okay. And say okay. Because if I put the base back on, you'll see how now it's pretty good clearance. We can adjust it a little later. So we'll turn that back on. So these other ones though now aren't going to work out too good because they're going to be in the way because of our spring, right? So we can adjust where these are. Now we attach the nuts to the cap. So if we could find the other joint, which is, I know this one right here, edit joint, I can move this cap way down here. Let's move it out. We'll move it out there for now. Say okay. So now all those move together because they're attached together. Now let's create a joint, and we're going to take the spring. If we this is what's really hard. I'm going to cancel that. Springs are hard to select, and if we're going to do a move on the spring, and we're going to select the spring, and it's set for components, so we're going to select it. We're going to just take it in a translate mode, so we just move it in a one-axis thing, and try to move it down here. And then now this is one of those things where you're going to say, okay, that's good enough type of thing. It's we're just going to swing it around, and I can see the spring through the part, so I can move it down and say, okay, that's about right. You know, this is just for looks anyway. This is not a functional thing, and it's on the axis. It looks good, and I'll just say okay. Because selecting a spring, finding a place to select it to make it stay concentric in a joint is very difficult to do. It's almost impossible. What I've done before is I've actually drawn in other parts to it, so something to select. But here, what I'm going to do is just say assemble or as built joint, capture the position, click on that, and click on this, and now that is attached together as a rigid joint. And then I'm going to go back here to the I'll go back here to the other cap and edit its joint and bring it down to somewhere maybe there, because I don't see the spring because I'm earlier in the history, and that's almost there. We could move it a little bit more, edit that joint a little more, just maybe a little bit. And that doesn't look like the spring's sticking out. It looks good, right? It looks it's on the rod. Everything's on the rod, and we can say fine, just leave things together just like that. We could, as built joint, we could say, oh, connect that to this also, and leave it all together. Now it's a lot of joints for that, but that's okay. This is just a look thing. So we'll just turn our bases back on. You'll see here how it's, and where's our cylinder? So turn our cylinder back on. And that's what it looks like. But now when we move our cylinder, you'll notice everything is moving together. Everything, the springs turning, all that's turning. It looks pretty good. All right, now we're going to draw, get a cylinder head out of the way. Try to get a little farther down the line here. We can get rid of, you know, if you don't want to look at all this stuff, sometimes it makes it just so confusing, right? But you can just get rid of the base if you want. Just hide it like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put these caps under the cylinder. So I'm going to select the cylinder as my active piece, right? Just like that. Now, if you didn't want to look at all the rod-based stuff, you can just turn that whole shoot and match off there. And we'll turn the spring off. So we just look at the cylinder, which is good. and we're going to go to the cylinder again, and we're going to say right click on that, and we're going to create a new component, and that new component is going to be the cylinder head, right? The other end we'll call the gland, you know, the piston rod gland end. So this will be the cylinder head, and that will become the active component. So what are we going to start with? Well, the cylinder head does have a side profile to it, so we'd really like to draw it in the profile mode, but we don't have to. We can just draw it right here on the end of the cylinder if we wanted to. So we really haven't done one of those kind of parts yet, so let's draw it right on the face of the cylinder. So we're going to do sketch again, create sketch. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the end of the cylinder. I hope that's the plan. I think that's what I got. I think I got this. Yeah, and I think it gave me the end of the cylinder. Yeah, it might. And I'm just double checking to make sure I got the right plane there. Yeah, it gave me the end of the cylinder. So I want to look now. I turn this and it's not facing me anymore, but I want to get it back. Now I know the end of this is called front. I could click on that, but the other command down here is look at, and I don't know if I've mentioned this already. So look at means make normal to me, my screen. So if I click it on look at, and then I clicked on that face again, it will turn it back so it's right straight at me. Very, very handy feature. And something also I haven't really mentioned is the grid. I really don't care if there's a grid there. To me, I don't really use it. Yeah, it can give you some rough ideas, like, oh well, this looks like this line's a 1-inch line because it's right at the half-inch mark. It kind of gives you some referencing and stuff that is the origin on center line and things like that. But you don't really need the grid, and you don't really need to use the grid. It's just kind of a nice thing. You can actually turn it off, and you can have snap to the grid turned. I have it turned on, which is rather helpful when you're initially designing something, especially. So it can really help standardize a drawing and things like that. And you can adjust the increment moves of the cursor and stuff. So you can look at these things later, and you can have different viewports. I've never even used that really. And you can have different display settings. So let's see. I have shaded with visible edges only. You can have wireframe, wireframe with hidden edges. You can try all this stuff out. It's pretty cool. I don't change much of this stuff really. I don't know. Yeah, dark sky. Oh wow. Okay, that's kind of dark. I don't know if that helps. That's kind of different. It makes it kind of hard to see things. Oh, what you're drawing. It makes things stand out in the background a little better. Huh. That's interesting. I don't know. You guys let me know what you guys like better. The gray. That's nice. I like that. I haven't really played with these very much. So hey, we'll leave it with gray. That's kind of cool. So anyway, you can do these, play with all these things down here, and yeah, on you guys' own time. Anyway, so let's draw a cylinder head on here and see what we can come up with here. So we're gonna do a create sketch, of course. So we're gonna do kind of a stack. Oh, I already had a sketch over. We're going to do like a stacking method, and I don't know if they have an official name for it. So we want to get the center, so we just kind of hover there, and we'll get the center. And that the cylinder head is the same diameter as the out. You want it as the outside out here, right there, and that way we just kind of match right up with it. And that's kind of nice. And now this has a lot of sketches when you do it this way, so we'll have stop sketch, and then we're gonna extrude. We'll extrude this again, right? And I don't know how thick you want those things. Yeah, that's kind of thick, right there. Now, what it did is it projected the holes for us, which is kind of nice. We were going to do that anyway, and so the program kind of thinks ahead a lot for you in this sense here. But I don't need that hole in the middle, right? So we need to have that solid there. So we'll just click on that and solid that up real nice. Yeah. We can leave the holes there. That's fine. That'll make it, because we need to make them a little bigger anyway. We'll say okay. So we're about 100,000. That's okay. That looks good. See, now it's all just matched up real nice. So let's fix our holes. So we're back to that. Create sketch right here. Circle. We'll select one of them. Pick it here. It's 0.120 for a clearance hole for the 440. And what are we going to do? We're going to do the circular pattern again. Right. Select that. Center point will be the center point of the circle. And we want 4. There we go. And they're all oriented properly. And say okay. Then we can do an extrude, and we want to make sure we select those little donuts, all of them. And we're just going to go to the other side of the part there, say okay. Now we have clearance holes for the 440 screws to go in there. Pretty nice. All right, now on the inside, right there, we want to build a little bit up, maybe 20 thousandths or so, not very much, only up to about the port, the edge of that port that's in here. That's as far as we would want to extend it. So we should be able to go extrude, and I don't know if we're going to be able to do this. Might be hard. Might have to take the cylinder, right click on the cylinder, no, not the cylinder, the body, the cylinder body, right click on that. No, not while extrude's open. Okay, so let's go to the cylinder body and make it unselectable. This way, when I reach in there, I can select the other items. Sometimes the pieces get in the way. So I'm making them unselectable for a little bit to get your command here going. And I still am not going to be able to select that circle. Still. All right, so what we want to do is we want to make this projection on the inside from the cylinder head, but we don't want, it's not very much, it's just enough to help center the head up, and you don't want it to cover the port here, so it's only, you know, maybe 30 thousandths or so, but you got to watch out. It's going to affect our piston clearance, so we don't want to come up past the port edge at all, and it's just enough to to give it a little centering. Now, we can go in there and draw a circle, but I don't think we'll really need to because we have our cylinder here. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to do this. So we're So what we need to do here is draw a circle on the inside, or what we need to do here is make a projection from the head into the cylinder a little bit. And the head is sitting on the cylinder, and how are we going to do that? Well, it's the same as the bore size, and we don't want it to, we see our angled port coming into the cylinder, and we don't want to cover up the edge of that. So and it's going to affect our piston because of clearances in the cylinder. So, but we want to come in a little bit, maybe 20, 30 thousandths. We'll see how much room we have there. Well, do we have to really draw a circle? Well, there's a circle there already from the cylinder. So we're going to project that onto the cylinder. Then we should be able to extrude that out. That's the plan, at least, right? But selecting it can be a little bit difficult. So I want to create a sketch. So shortcut for sketch, and I'm going to select the back face here of for the plane of the sketch. And let's see. Now I'm going to try a project, P for project, and the question is, can I get that circle selected? I might have to reach in through the center. See how I came around? From the outside over here, I couldn't do it, but see here the end of the cylinder, as I selected the end of the cylinder, I can get that circle, and I'm going to select on that. So now I projected a line on my sketch, and I'll just say okay. Now I have a line there that's selectable. I can say extrude, select that bit, and come out, I don't know, 20 thousandths, maybe more, 30 thousandths. And it's going to be a join, and I can look at where's that line? See that black line here? That's how far out it's going to come, and it's right 30 thousandths is right to the edge. So let's say okay. There. Now I protruded that in, and I didn't have to draw another line or circle or anything, and I joined it to the head, and it's right to the line, right where we want it to be. I don't know if you can you see that? Now let's put the fun stuff on, right? And we're going to shortcut that sketch, the end here, and let's do a text, and we're gonna boom. Let's say R right there. Make it fancy a little bit. We can even change the font to something here. Oh, it doesn't look very good. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Like that. And we can take it and let's see. Let's see. Say okay, and then we can drag it around. Let's put it right there. Let's see. Let's say size is a little bigger. 4, 5. There we go. Okay. I'm going to do another text down here. R. Let's see here. Italicize it and there. There. That's what we want. Let's see. We're gonna do this right here. Right. I don't know. Placing text is a little sketchy anyway. what I'm doing is I'm kind of using, what I'm using is the orange boxes around the letter. And I'm lining that edge up with the center of the hole. And I'm just kind of dragging them around, and so they're about both the same height and both the same location. There we go. Stop sketch, and then we're gonna say extrude, and we're gonna select both of them. There we go. And now we have some raised letters on there. And I think we'll even put a small chamfer on the outside edge. 20, 30,000 probably. Oh, that's a little bit much. There we go. What else we need? We need 4 screws. All right, 4 screws. So what do we need? Well, we're going to go back to my master car, right? Socket head cap screws, 440s, and I think a 1/4 inch. I think is the length of those also. There. Let's see. There we go. And pick the part number, product detail. Scroll down step, save. Orient it right off the bat. Drag it out, point to point. Got too much in the way, right? Plane and hole and there and done. Assemble as built joint. Capture that position there and the head. Okay, there we go. Put some more screws in, right? Select the screw, Control C. Now I'm just doing keyboard commands here on this, and then Control V, and then Control V again. Let's see, I have to get rid of that to do that. All right, we have all our screws in place and locked down, and we got our head built. Now we can let's hide the cylinder itself, and you can see all the screws and the head. That looks pretty good. Nice simple little plate, not a big deal to make. Put everything back and put our pivot back. Make our top, put our base back, put everything back, and we're looking like an engine. We're looking pretty good. Oh, we didn't put any color on it though. Let's paint it. Let's we'll just select the blue, and then our red is what we have been lettering with. So this red works good. Select faces, and we just drag and drop, and we'll just paint those up a little bit. There we go. Say close. And we have an origin in there somewhere. Okay. And we have a bunch of joints in there showing. So we maybe hide some of those joints. Well, I'll have to go through and find them all now. But anyway, there we go. Cylinder head on. Done. And in the next video, we'll get the other cylinder head, and because that's a little more complicated, that head, and maybe get started on the crankshaft. There we go. And down here. There we go. All right, we look pretty good. We've got one head done and the spring and all that, and we'll do the next head in the next video. More and more like an engine every day. All right, you guys, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and check out the rest of the videos in this series to build your own little fusion engine, we're calling it. Thanks, you guys. Catch you in the next one.